Welcome to the Zweig Letter Podcast, putting architectural, engineering, planning, and environmental consulting guru Mark Zweig and his team of expert straight talk in your ear. Mark has more than 30 years of experience helping AEP and environmental firms thrive, and these podcasts deliver his invaluable management, industry, client, and HR advice directly to you, free of charge. The Zweig Letter Podcasts let you develop professionally, wherever you are.
Hey everyone, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Zweig Letter Podcast. Our goal is to bring you some of the best and brightest minds that the AEC industry has to offer. Today, I'm pleased to welcome Delrae Bennett from Time Counts. Delrae is the Vision Whisperer, and we're just so excited to have you on the podcast today, Delrae. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and I'm equally as pleased to be a part of this.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So listen, as a recruiter that has been in this industry for almost 3 decades now, in the 90s, the 2000s, and now the 2010s, we've always heard about Deltek. We've always heard about Deltek Vision and all of their great products that they have that help the firms in the design space operate so much more efficiently and do it from a place of excellence. I certainly would love to just get your take on what you do there with Time Counts to make people's lives easier with Deltek Vision and just the suite of Deltek products that are available for the AEC industry.
Sure, I would love to. It's been a long process, a long road, starting out in the 80s with a younger product or a product that Deltek bought. And I'm from my electrical background, my software background, I started working with the program when it was in its DOS days, and I realized a lot of people didn't have patience to really work on to understand the software and how it was thinking. And it was with that ability of understanding what the software needed to work, I was able to help a lot of companies in the early days move from DOS to Windows and Windows to the server environment. And when Deltek came out with their product with the dashboard, the revolutionary dashboard in the year 2000, once again, it was helping customers understand that and how to leverage it for their company. It's been a fun process, and I think what I bring to the table for companies is my project management, my drafting. I've been in engineering since I was 17, and I worked my way through college through engineering. So with that, I can come into any firm and really understand any question that's being asked of me and help them understand in their own words how the system wants to work. So, I call it Vision Whisperer, but some firms will say, Delrae, they'll say, use your words, because, a lot of times companies just don't understand the software itself. So I've enjoyed learning all the different modules that Deltek has brought out into the system. And why I have a job is because companies don't have the time or resource to have that one person really understand how that works. So that's kind of a brief snapshot of why I'm here.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And certainly we're both actually in the same boat as consultants to the design industry. And I'm always wondering, why do these firms, you and I both, we deal with really smart people. These guys are not dense in any way, shape, or form. When you deal with engineers and architects and environmental consultants and planners, et cetera, these are really, really sharp people that provide a lot to the built environment. So I'm always amazed at, when we sit down with these guys, they legitimately do need our help. And a lot of times it's, to kind of course correct when they've made mistakes or to figure out what they're doing wrong and how they can improve upon their situation. But, I think it's really interesting when I talk to other consultants in the design industry space in terms of what they're experiencing, with the client. And so that's really awesome to share that. So you mentioned that you have a degree in electrical engineering. So you kind of come from the industry and you understand it. Did you also have to acclimate yourself on the accounting side of things? Because obviously, Vision has that component to it, and Deltek offers that component in all of their software. So I'm just curious as to what you've done on that side of things.
No, that's a really good point that you brought up early on. I realized that I needed to be able to talk to almost any CFO, or not argue, but have a conversation with the client. And so I did get accredited in what we call design accounting. It's not just an any accounting. I actually went and studied on the FARs, the Federal Access Regulations, and so that I could help them understand how to build your metrics. How to get your data in order to get those metrics down to the project level. So, it was fun learning that side of it as well, and to augment the lot more logical side of my education.
Wow. Okay. So what side do you find yourself gravitating towards the most, the accounting side or the engineering side, your engineering mind, or are they kind of morphed together?
Morphed. And part of what I love doing and why I've been doing it for 20 years is my day is never the same. I mean, I'll sit with somebody and help them understand their metrics, or realize, oh, your data is not correct, so this metric isn't really reflecting what's happening. So let's move your data around, and so it's morphed together, and it's become kind of a turnkey solution. We don't have to point blame to the software; we can just find the solution and get it done.
Okay. Well, and so tell me a little something. I wanted to learn. Just kind of give me an overall view of the things that you're able to do on the Deltek side of things. If you could just give me a list of things, because I have a couple of specific questions that I want to ask you that I've run into with clients. But why don't you tell me just a couple of the high level things that you focus on with regard to Deltek training that seem to come up there, that are recurring themes over and over again?
Well, I think I can answer that really well by giving you a situation that I ran into about 4 years ago. A large firm wasn't happy with Deltek Vision at all, so they invited me in, and unknowing to me, I walked into, or didn't realize what I was walking into, but it was a conference room full of 20 people, and there were 3 IT, there were 3 accounting, CFOs, project managers, and they literally had asked all questions of me because they couldn't understand each other.
Yeah.
So literally, accounting was like, why isn't RevGen working? And so then I'd ask the IT, where is the system loaded? And then the project manager say, well, why can't I do this? And so by a half hour later, after answering questions, I said, well, I know why none of it's working. I said, it's loaded 6 times, and nobody realized because it was loaded 6 times that the system couldn't do its work. I said, it can't do its work. You need to be in one system. And so the project manager said, well, we need it this way. And the accounting said, well, we need it that way. And I said, there's definitely a way to put them all together. And after about 6 months of working with the IT group, because they always said, well, we can't merge them. I said, let's not worry about that. Let me show you my idea. And so I helped with their IT. They have expert programmers, but because I take the approach, let's not worry about the path, let's just figure out where we want to go. And then I take them in increments, in small steps. First, let's do this step, and then let's go to the next step in conversion. And literally, I merged 6 of those databases into 3, and then from 3 databases into 1 multi-company, 1 system that can do everything that they wanted to do. So it's working with accounting, it's working with IT. So it's hard to say. It's understanding scripting, it's understanding the utilities of Deltek, it's understanding RevGen. It's because I dive into big projects like that, and I'm not afraid of them. I've been blessed in learning the whole part of the system, if you will. I don't know if that answers totally, but maybe not in a list fashion, but kind of as I approach problems.
No, it definitely gives me a good feeling and an answer to it. And you actually bring up some points that I've always wondered about, because when I talk to clients that use Deltek or use any, major program for that matter, their biggest concern is, how do we allow the people in the field, or the people that need to use this the most, to know exactly where things stand on a project by project basis? Certainly in the design space, the biggest issue is people don't want to blow their budgets. People want to make sure that that they're doing things properly, and that they have a full accounting for what they're spending on each and every project. Because you and I both know that the budget for any project can be blown out of the water if you don't keep an eye on the detail of what you're spending, how you're accounting for the time spent on the project, as well as for the money and material and resources spent on the project.
Exactly. And I've helped many firms, watch the project managers, maneuver or manipulate. So I even sometimes have to go in and help the accounting side, if they're manipulating their percent completes and to their benefit. And yet, as a CFO, on the CFO side, they want it to be more even. You can't really recognize revenue. So it's been a fun process to see the culture, the different components of how Deltek Vision and the other products make everybody talk in the same fashion, or be able to communicate together.
Okay.
Definitely one big reason that the AE industry has been so dominant in this project or this cost accounting is because of the need to know where they are in a budget, so that they know they're making money at the end of the day. By the time the banks pay for that building or the work, they could have lost their money and they didn't even know it. So
yes, yeah. Do you see that? I mean, just in terms of your, just from a post-mortem, do you see that more? Do you see that happening a lot with firms that just blew the budget and just did not realize it?
Yeah, those typically those are the ones that are calling, realizing they need to invest some more effort in maybe in the planning side, or even just the simple accounting budget per se, or even just setting up a work breakdown structure in a more manageable fashion. And then there's other firms that I've seen that have been very sophisticated in that, and even pulling out contingencies, just to make sure that there's something left if they run into that problem where there's the gotchas or the unknown issues on a project. So I've been blessed in seeing that and working with a lot of great CFOs.
So speaking of that, normally when you go into a firm, who is your interaction normally set with? It sounds like you do some stuff with IT, some things on the financial side. Are there any other leaders within a firm that you would normally interact with? And what is that interaction like?
Yes. So I just worked with the CEO out of Florida. He's brand new, and he needed someone that, an unbiased opinion of the product. So I worked with him on the data that he was now in charge of and the process. Spent a couple of days with him understanding that and getting a comfortable feeling, is it in the right spot? But also within that same firm, the accounting, the CFO come out and say, this report isn't in Deltek. And I said, I'll look, and I'm like, yeah, right. But here's a script for your IT people to give you that data in Excel. So it's that 20 years of background and of scripting and accounting, and that I can almost work with anybody in the firm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Now, tell me about the scripting stuff, because that's really interesting. Do you sometimes have to create this stuff on the fly, or do you have some items in your tool belt that you just pull from as a resource to provide to the IT folks, or even to the different people in accounting departments that need different types of reports?
Yeah, no, because of the engineer side of me, I love the scripting. So I know the tables of Deltek Vision, and because I've implemented a lot of firms, I've done a lot of importing. I've moved, data around. I've cleaned it up. So scripting is in my back pocket, and it's paid well. It's been my bread and butter at times. And it also is a big reward, because one simple report can mean so much to a firm, that talks to them. It's funny, you can't really have a standard list of reports. Somebody always wants something that's not there, and yet if they could get that data, then they can make better decisions for the firm.
Okay. All right. So, speaking of this now, because obviously you go in and you as you call yourself the Vision Whisperer, and I love that, by the way. I mean, do you have hats and T-shirts that say that on it? Because I think that would be some really cool swag to have to give out, and maybe you might want to think about that for Hot Firm this year in Seattle, which, by the way, you will be at. And as a sponsor, and we're really excited to have you, certainly. And I would encourage everyone that's listening to this podcast, or possibly watching the video version on YouTube, to check out Delrae at Time Counts, and we'll have all of her information in the show notes. And certainly, this is a shameless plug for her, but more importantly, because I know how important this information is for firms. That's one of the main reasons why we wanted to have you on. And I wanted you just to kind of give a an idea really for where does the Deltek support end and where do you pick up, right? Because I know I've talked to folks at Deltek before and they've got a great group of people there. I'm just curious as to how that, just so people have a better understanding, because sometimes I think when people feel like, oh well, I bought I bought this service or I bought this solution from this company and they're going to provide all the answers for me. In a lot of situations, that's not always the case. And we see that with Salesforce. We see that with a lot of, large entities that offer some type of, software as a service. And so I'm just curious as to how you would characterize that. So like where Deltek at the company stops and where you begin.
Sure. And yeah, that's basically why I'm in business, because I do have something different to offer than what Deltek does as a software company. And really where I gained a client is when they need somebody that knows everything. I'm almost become their database administrator in part, because I can help them with the accounting side, I can help them with the IT side. And with Deltek, you'd have to get a different person. So there's some disconnect there. So if you want a specialty, or if it's just a add random support, that's great for Deltek. I'm more of the long-term mentor, if you will. So my companies actually will be with me I still talk to somebody from 6-7 years ago. They use me very rarely, but when they have that one question that they can't wait 2 days for Deltek to come to a solution, they ask me. Or if things don't post correctly and the Deltek can't seem to find it, then I'm the one that they come to and I help them clean it up on the script side and clean up that data. So we work together, I think, fairly well. And then if a company has a long project, I've been hired to do, like a 7-month project to put together 5 databases into one. So those are the kind of things that would be harder to do with Deltek. Would be more expensive with Deltek. And yet I like to say I play well with Deltek. I acquiesce and say, maybe that should be a support question instead of having me help you with that. So.
Okay, well, that's cool. So, and just help me understand your business model a little bit. So you obviously will do on a case-by-case basis, you'll work with somebody for a period of time, like you said, 7 months. But then are you also available to work with people on a retained basis, or a subscription model? How do you do that? If somebody's like, oh my God, we've got a fire here with Deltek, call Delrae. I mean, how does that work?
It's just a retainer. I ask for retainers much like a lawyer, if you will. It's company out of California, sends me $2,000 and they play off of that, work off of that the whole year. It's just a way to know that they have someone there in case they need that question answered right away. You know how hard it is for a firm not to get something done up. Losing a whole day is critical.
And are you pretty much on call for a lot of these people whenever they need you? I'm sure your mobile phone is known by a lot of CFOs and IT
It is, and I even on weekends. I mean, so it's just something that is passionate. I'm a farmer's daughter, and so you never really off of work, and it doesn't unless I'm sleeping, of course. But no, it's just and I can answer the questions so quickly that and they appreciate it so much on a Saturday or a Sunday when they just can't get something figured out, and I'll just pop an email out to them and tell them to do this and call me if that didn't work. And so that's the kind of I'm their mentor. I'm their best friend with Deltek.
That's awesome. So now, is there a Robin to your Batman? I mean, do you have a partner or somebody else that helps out when you're not available, or are you pretty much shouldering most of the load?
No, I have a couple of partners. I have Regina and I have a Luke. So and they can do some of the more basic things if people need more data entry help or more, But I guess the more sophisticated courses is shouldered by me, but I definitely have people that can help me on the more simpler items.
Okay. All right. Well, that's cool. So, well, tell me a little bit more. I know you do. You'll go. You can go in and do training. You can train a whole team or department on getting the most out of Deltek, whether whichever product they're using. And then you also do some implementation work. So if a firm is bringing on Deltek for the first time, you can help them get that process up and running properly. And I'm assuming you probably go in and do a full intake of what they're currently doing before they actually even incorporate Deltek into the bigger picture. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. I've dived in on every aspect of Deltek Vision, implementing, re-implementing, merging, coming from another product and starting from scratch and not importing. So it's been a fun career over the last 20 years.
Yeah. And would you say that what that scenario you described earlier with the company that had like six versions of Deltek running, I guess, and you ultimately got it down to one. Is that a common issue that you see a lot, where everybody has their own way of using Deltek, so they stick with that, and then Gary down the hall is using it a different way, so he's got his own system set up differently, and you kind of come in and you have to figure out a way to bring the two together. Does that happen quite a
It
bit?
has in the past. Now with the cloud version and some of the ways we're moving forward, that'll get reduced a little bit. But yeah, there is. What they have to realize is Deltek Vision or any other product you're using is the common language that your firm is using. So the more that everybody can be on the same page, it's as simple as saying, marketing will call a customer, and the project manager will call them a client. Well, what you really need to do is get that into that one term. Are they a prospect? Are they a customer? Are they a lead? Simple nomenclature like that can trip up a company and make them not productive, or not as productive as they could be. So surprisingly, I sometimes come into a lot of even just culture change and trying to bring them together more as a group.
Yeah. Okay. So you really are a vision whisperer, but you're also a people whisperer too, right? I guess so we can kind of put the two together.
You always have to bring it down to what's in it for me. And a lot of times I'll see a lot of resistance to change. And, I'll sit with them and I'm like, this is going to be great for your career. This is going to be great in your resume to know this system. You have to bring it down to their level. And why am I doing all this extra work?
Okay. And as we round this out, because obviously we could certainly go deep on a technical level, and this is not a technical podcast, but I know I've spoken to you in the past about this in terms of, why don't you just give the audience your take? This is from somebody that's been in the industry for some time now. You know what you're talking about. Just articulate, if I'm a CFO or a COO of a growing architectural or engineering firm, and I'm contemplating getting into the Deltek family of products, can you just kind of give a quick comparison, or just a quick, hey, you might want to get, or might want to consider Deltek Vision if you do X. You might want to consider a Jira if you do Y. Can you just talk a little bit about those? Because I know those are the two main products that everybody knows. People know Deltek Vision, and obviously they know Jira, which is one of the Deltek products that Deltek purchased a few years ago. And we don't have to go through the backstory of that, but if you just would be willing to talk about that, that would be awesome.
Sure. No, I see, many firms are on QuickBooks typically, to get started, and that's a great way to get your business off the ground. Most accounting people will understand that and be able to get you running. When you consider any Deltek product or other products out there, it's because you realize between 20 and 50 people that it's just not efficient in getting your project management information. So once projects come in and more projects and more people, that's when you're considering those different Deltek systems, Jira and Vision. So the Jira is great. It's stable. It's a nice, not entry but basic system. And a lot of firms are happy with that because they have one style of business. They aren't going to be, growing or stretching into other types of revenue streams. Where I see firms going into Deltek Vision, the vision side of things, it has a much broader breadth of modules that would let you have that fleet of cars, or would let you have that inventory of things that you're able to offer as a survey crew, or any other type of system where you need to track materials or things that are on your projects. So to me, Deltek Vision allows you to have a firm that with a CFO or CEO that has ideas, and they can actually run them through Deltek Vision, that one ERP system. And that's really what I see. If the firm is set, they don't have any way of, or any ideas of, or don't have that marketplace to have to worry about other avenues of revenues, and they've got that one stable thing, then a Jira works great. And that's really what I see, and that's what we ask about when we're looking to implement them.
Okay. And then, and have you had people outgrow, say, like a Jira, and you've helped them transition over to Vision? Is that a major process?
It's not a major process. In fact, the process is built in. So Vision already has in the import functionality the Jira field. So that is the path. And in fact, I see that's how Deltek is servicing or keeping the clients that are on a Jira. They don't want to lose that clientele. So a Jira is perfectly fine for them. But if they get to the point they want to move up to Deltek, that path is already there.
Okay. All right. So it's like going from junior high school to high school.
Yep.
Something like that.
Exactly.
So, okay. All right. Perfect. We try to make these things as simple as possible for our audience, so that, because they're already thinking about a million really brilliant things as it is. So, but listen, Delrae, this has been actually a really good education, and I'm sure my audience may have some other questions, and we're definitely going to get you back on the show for another episode at some time, and maybe we'll go and do a deeper dive about implementing project management, the right project management tools to get the most out of Deltek Vision or any of your Deltek products for that matter. So we'll find some time in the near future to do that, and who knows, maybe we'll have time in Seattle at the Hot Firm event next month to do a recording as well. So we'll see how that goes. But for right now, we want to go back a second to the superhero origin story of who Delrae Bennett really is. And so we want to go a little deeper for our audience. We want to learn a little bit more about you. So we have a couple of simple questions that we'll end our interview with, and hopefully we'll have some fun in the process. Is that okay?
Sure, let's go.
All right. So what was the last book you read?
Unbroken.
Okay. And what did you see the movie?
I did. Yeah, it was hard to watch the movie actually, but I enjoyed the read more than the movie, just because I probably knew what was coming. But it was inspirational for me to just think a kid that was, had trouble growing up, but just needed an outlet for his energies, and once he found that, he excelled at it. It was inspiring.
Yeah, he just recently passed away, but his life was just quite interesting, to say the least. And he, the thing about it was just that, he harbored no ill will towards his captors, even to the time of his death, which was amazing. So I think that's quite interesting. So since I know you travel a lot for work and you probably amass a ton of frequent flyer miles, where do you use those frequent flyer miles to go on vacation? What was your last vacation?
I go to Hawaii and on Kaanapali Beach. It's my favorite place to go. It's exotic, and yet it's still in the U.S. So I've actually even traveled there by myself for 2 weeks.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that sounds like fun. Yeah, it's there's something about Hawaii that just gets you every time you go there. But you have to almost remind yourself that it's part of the United States sometimes.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. So that's cool. So now, if you could binge watch one TV series, old or new, what would it be?
I love Bones.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I can relate to the lead character, Bones, because she's very, very intelligent, and when I went to college, in the 70s, I was the only woman in my class. So
Wow.
I can relate to, I had to be very strong and sturdy because they were calling me sweetie and honey, and don't hurt yourself. I can do this. And so I can relate to, I had to inject that image of being a strong woman. So it's one of the reasons I like it.
That's very cool. I like that. Well, and now since you opened that door, and I certainly would like to bring that up. What are your thoughts about women in engineering and architecture nowadays? How much of a change have you seen in the recent past?
Oh, well, I'll tell you just to kind of name a few. I'm not familiar with the colleges today as much, but my son is an electrical engineer as well. And when I went to college, we were half a dorm hall, and they locked us up at midnight. And and we had to do a lot of our own labs and everything else on our own and on Saturday, because the boys would just not let us tolerate that. So then, fast forward 20 some years, and I bring my son to the dorms, and the women are right across the hall, and I'm just like, oh boy, times changed. But I do see a lot more women being acknowledged for what they can do, and it's okay to be feminine and smart at the same time, and I really appreciate that in the world today.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's actually, and I don't know her name, but the head of CH2M, who just recently merged with Jacobs, is a woman, and so when I saw that, I was like, wow, because I used to keep up with them back in the day, but I just there are a lot of women in places of power within the design industry, and I think it's absolutely fantastic, and I hope it continues. But I'm always interested to hear those stories, because I can understand that sometimes people have a view of the design industry and what it's like, and so we're starting to see a level of diversity, gender and otherwise, take shape in the industry, and I think it's for the good.
Yep, I agree totally.
Yeah. So, well, listen, Delrae, this, for those of you listening, this took a while for us to get together today. We had our own issues, and sometimes things that you want to have happen don't happen the way you want them to. And so that was the case with this particular podcast. But Delrae, I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to meet with us and share just a little bit of insight into what you do on a daily basis with time counts. And certainly we will make sure that we get all of your information up on the show notes for this episode. And we want to thank you so much for being with us. And I do look forward to seeing you next month in Seattle. Hopefully we'll throw some salmon around and maybe enjoy some good seafood.
Okay, that sounds good. And actually, I'm going salmon fishing tomorrow.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay. Well, awesome. Well, thank you again so much. Listen, folks, I want to encourage you today to get a free subscription of Civil plus Structural Engineer magazine. And to sweeten the pot, we are throwing in a couple of issues of the Zweig Letter too. Just visit freetzl.zweiggroup.com and leave us your email address. We'll take care of the rest. Everything will be delivered to you electronically. In addition, if your firm is looking to hire great talent, please join our mailing list for AEC Workforce. Just text the word "hire faster" to 66866, and that will get you on the list where you will learn more about this upcoming job board for the design and construction industry. As a reminder, all Zweig Group media programs like this one are available in both podcast and, in most cases, video format, free for download on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and YouTube, just to name a few places. A link to all this information, including contact information for Delrae, will be in our show notes. And we'd love it if you'd go to iTunes or wherever you tune into the show and give us a 5-star review and share this link with a friend. Remember, sharing is caring. I'm Randy Wilburn, and you've been listening to Zweig Group Media, part of Zweig Group. Remember, we exist to make you more successful. Bye for now.
Thanks for tuning in to this Zweig Letter Podcast. We hope that you can apply Mark's no-holds-barred advice to your daily professional life. For a free transcript of this or any episode of our podcast, please visit info.zweiggroup.com/podcast. If you want more wisdom and inspiration, in addition to information about finance, HR, and marketing your firm, subscribe to the print or digital version of the Zweig Letter online at zweiggroup.com/publications.